Hello, hello. Well, I was here with two other people. I'm here with your captain for the week, Kathy, and Cheryl, who is project coordinator for the project. And we're here to talk about WikiTree Challenge 21, and that would be the week of Angela Lansbury. So, Kathy, how do you think the week went?
I think it went well. We got a lot accomplished, even with having our WikiTree Day symposium in there on the Friday and Saturday last week, kind of in the beginning of it. So we had a lot of people still working on it.
Yeah, me too. I figured we'd have to really rally after that. I told everybody it was okay if they had to take the 2 days off, but there were people that continued to work throughout the weekend and the anniversary event. Good morning, Tommy.
They did, and we had a lot of England project members that were working on it. So that was good.
And other project members, though, all
Yeah.
around. I thought there was a lot of activity during the symposium.
There was a lot more than I thought there might have been. So I was happy about that as team captain, seeing a lot of work still being done.
Hi, John. She wasn't sure if she could make it either. She's still feeling pretty lousy, but she went ahead and pulled herself up by the bootstraps for this. So,
Yeah.
and Cheryl, what do you think of our attendance this week?
I'm getting. Am I talking?
If you want to.
I thought I was muted. I thought it was great. It was a great week, Kathy. You did really great as the captain. Had some
Yeah, and we had
wonderful
a lot of
people working.
participants, and I'm going to briefly show her fan chart, but oops, let me do this real quick. We didn't have a lot of locations this time, and so, it was really basically just kind of those three areas, and we had England, Ireland, and Scotland. There should be a few Wales people in there, although we did notice we had somebody looking at the map for us, and there was one line where the person wandered off to Australia and another one that wound up in New Zealand, wasn't it? So that was kind of interesting. Like that. But yeah, pretty much the same locations. I think it's a little bit hard when you do that because then you're really reliant on the people that have experience. And we did have like an incredible amount of participation, from the England project, but we also had a lot of people that weren't, and they had to come in, and poor John, I know we leaned on heavily for those Ireland profiles, hoping he could get a lot done with them. And then, of course, we have the Scotland ones, which we don't really have a lot of people that are spend a lot of time in those locations researching. Lynette's having a hard time getting results. Not sure why. I'm personally glad, on a side note, that we're done with election commercials right now because those were driving me nuts. I'd rather watch, like the dog one with the peanut butter boxes here. Watch something silly instead of political stuff. But yeah, I think, we just had a really, really super good turnout. And we had 43 plus people. And I always, of course, say plus because there's always people that come in and they don't necessarily want to sign up, or, they want to just work on the certain things like looking at newspaper articles and stuff like that, which they don't get points for, but it's still all really valuable contributions. And, being the second or third set of eyes for people when they get a really complicated relationship. And we had a number of those this time that really needed to be looked at carefully, and a lot of research had to be done. And man, it's those common names. So we were all throwing our common names out that are in our tree the other day. We're like, yeah, I feel you, because I got this one. And the ones that go like 5 generations of William, that's frustrating. So besides that, Kathy, what do you think were kind of some of the difficulties this week?
I couldn't hear the last bit.
Oh, just the fact that there were a lot of common names.
Oh, yeah. And that's hard when you have a lot of common names, because I have some of that in my English ancestors. And it's hard, especially in England. You can have the common name, same birth years, same location. So you really have to be careful and try and match everybody up. And I've been learning that.
Yeah, and then it kind of comes down to looking at those other clues, what was their occupation, who was their wife. Unfortunately, if you get like a William and Mary, then you got to start looking at, well, I hope there were some kids in the house or in the probate or, somewhere so you can tell them apart.
Yeah, but when you have William and Mary, and then you have the cousins that also are marrying, so then you got to figure out the cousins, who they go to, also.
And William and Mary always name their kids the same.
Yes.
There
Yes,
are
they
no
do.
Mindys in those trees at all. There's
no
none.
Cheryls either.
Dunya says, yeah, William and Mary. Yes. And we actually did have that in Angela's branches. So I know the Williams were driving more than a few people nuts. Really interesting. And, for the upcoming challenge, we're going to need those Scotland records too. So I'm hoping people that feel practiced this week from playing with Ireland and Scotland records, are willing to spend some time next week too, because we'll be doing, of course, Robert Macmillan Coltrane, Robbie Coltrane from Harry Potter. So we definitely are going to need some Scottish help on those, or any help, period. If you write biographies, come see us. So let's get back to this week's challenge. And, I just want to say once again, just really, really incredible. And 43 plus people. I know there were people that are not on the score sheet that were helping. And, an incredible 1,961 points. So that was awesome. And there were 6,281 changes or contributions made during 1 week's time by these people. That's over 6,000 times they fixed a date, changed a name, added a source, and hit save. And, some of the times they put 3 sources before they hit save. So it's actually more than that. And they were on 1,998 unique profiles. So even though they didn't create quite that many, every time we connect to one of the older lines, the first thing we have to do is go and see, are there sources there? Does the profile need cleaning up? Are there things we need to look at? And, if it needs it, then we have to stop and take care of those as well. So that's how you wind up with so many more of the unique profiles. So do either of you have a favorite that you heard about?
I had at least 8.
Yeah, we had a lot of interesting finds this time.
Yeah, more than usual. Because you figure we had 28. Well, somebody added one, so it was 29 when I looked yesterday. 29 interesting finds, plus 6 space pages. Plus, there were more than a dozen military profiles. So really, there was more than 29 finds, because there was all this other additional interesting stuff that was documented that wasn't necessarily listed as a discovery. And, definitely really fun to get the survey done up this week and put it out there so people could vote and see what they thought was their favorite.
Yeah, and Hillary said that there was someone helping her who she thinks didn't sign up for the challenge. And you can still be working on the profiles and helping us on the challenge even if you don't sign up. The only thing is you just don't get points, but any help is appreciated.
Yeah, and even just coming into Discord, because we keep, live chat in Discord. It's not voice chat, it's text chat, but it pretty much goes around the clock. So there's always somebody, since we're a global site, that's in there talking about research or, it's nice to go in and say, hey, do you need anything? Or, oh, great job, nice profile, and just anything, pop in there and say hello, see what people are talking about, see if there's anything you can do to help. And we do all share our resources too. So if you happen to have the time to stop and look up newspaper articles or something like that, then, we absolutely love that when people do that for us. That one I don't recall right off the top of my head, John. But I am going to go ahead and share a few of these profiles that people did. And these weren't necessarily the top 5, but they were some of the really interesting ones. And so I'm just going to do it like that for a minute. This one's for George Stewart Ferris, who went by Stewart. And he wrote to his parents in 1914. This was really cool, one of my favorites. But the letter took almost 8 months to get to him because it had been on the ship SS Empress of Ireland, and the ship wrecked. So when they went to go through the ship's remainings and try and retrieve everything, they found this letter and, most likely some other ones. And it was actually the letter and the envelope were still intact in very good shape. Just the gum that seals the envelope had lifted, but it was even stamped on there that it was taken by recovered by divers from the wreck of the SS Empress of Ireland. And so it did eventually make it to the parents. And that was just really cool. And then for the next person, we have Adelbert Merle-Stocking, which this one comes off of Angela's husband Roy's family. And he was divorced by his first wife on the grounds that he stayed in a continual state of intoxication by consuming a mixture of extracts that he called jazz extract. So I'm not sure what the jazz part of the extract was, but whatever it was, he said it kept him intoxicated. And so, he had an interesting life. You can see his 2 wives there, Bernice and Larabelle. And then for the third one, this is nice. This has some images. This is George Lansbury. And this is Angela's grandfather. And he was a teetotaler and non-smoker, but not a killjoy. He was imprisoned twice, first for his activities in the suffrage movement. So, hey, way to go, George. And later with other members of the Bureau Council for refusing to agree to levy rates for the London County Council. He also received a letter on condolence on behalf of the King and Queen when his wife passed. So, that was just really cool that he had those connections and interesting. And, a lot of times it takes something unique like that to make them stand out in the records, or we don't necessarily find the families and their stories. And, you can see here that George and Elizabeth had 12 children. So very large family, very large. I only see one young death in there. We're going to have to put a sticker on that or an image on it. And then the next one would be James Mantell. And he was a Freemason. This is interesting for any of you, that attended the WikiTree Symposium and WikiTree Day. We had one of our wonderful people, Eric Weddington, did a thing on Freemasons. But here we have, this is James Mantell. Now, this was Angela's second great-grandfather and the father of actor Robert Bruce Mantell, which the Mantells just seem to have a lot of stories, don't you think, Kathy? They were
yes.
There were some interesting people. Now, this one, James was a baker, and he got so good, at baking that Lord Eglinton took him to be his private baker in his castle. And he heard James singing one day at work and found out that he had this really incredible tenor voice. So since Lord Eglinton was a big entertainer and liked to have parties, he decided to use those talents as well. And it says when it came to be his turn, he would say with a lisp that was famous all over Scotland, I canna thing myself, but will have one of my household thing for you. And so, he entertained the people and I would think that James probably appreciated it too, that the artistic side of him was also being appreciated. So that was just really cool. And then here's the Robert Bruce Mantell we were talking about was the son, and the 4 wives. Did he possibly have a 5th wife, or did we decide that that was just 4?
I believe it was decided it's 4 because one of them went by a stage name.
Okay.
And so they were thinking the stage name, that's
Possibly
where
was actually
the fifth wife could have come in, not realizing it was a stage name for the wife.
yeah. So there's the one of his movie posters. But one of the interesting things about him was that the famous Phineas Taylor Barnum went to visit Ermine and stopped over at James Mantell's inn. It was called the Wheat Sheaf Inn. And, you know, he was in there and talking after supper, and I'm sure, you know, being boisterous, he was definitely a strong personality. And he saw a little curly-headed boy of 3 or 4 sitting in the corner with just the absolutely biggest round eyes and a look of awe on his face. And so, you know, Barnum laughed, and he went over and he put the boy on his knee, and he eventually patted him and said, you know, one day, my lad, you will be a great showman too. The boy never forgot his words. And um, you know, well, as we found out, he did wind up staying in that field, and he was an actor. He was a screen actor. He was also a stage actor, and he spent a lot of time on that. So, you know, I think that was just very, very impactful that that he had met Barnum. Oh, I think John's still talking about the movie. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that one up, John.
Yeah, I think
Oh, what else do you think about the week?
Well, I stopped into Discord several times during the week, and I sleep odd hours, as you know. So I was in there at 3:00 in the morning. I was there at 7:00 in the afternoon. It was active all the time. Everybody was talking. This challenge was active, like you said, 24/7. There's some challenges that we have that there's dead space.
Yeah.
This challenge did not have dead space. It was
it's not very
going.
often that we get it, but every once in a while.
We do. I stop, you know, there's like you said, every now and then I'll stop in and there's nobody in there. But this one, every time I stopped in, somebody was doing something. And there was a lot of collaboration, which I thought was very nice. It's nice to see that.
I think there's a lot more chatter when we have like European lines on the guest we're working on, because when the US has a tendency to be sleeping, Europe is up. And so they're working away. I'm on the West Coast, so I'm like one of the last people, I guess you could say, to go to sleep. And when I see Europe is getting on Discord, I'm like, oh, maybe I need to go to sleep. And there's been a couple of times I've been on and Mindy has jumped on. Then I know I'm really in trouble.
Yeah, and I used to get up at 3:30 or 4 all the time. So yeah, then everybody'd all of a sudden disappear. They're like, oh my gosh, I was supposed to be in bed. Never mind. Bye, Mindy. Everybody get quiet.
But it's great because someone will find something and then just need, hey, can someone check this out? I just need a second pair of eyes on it, and they do. And the collaboration's really good on Discord.
Yeah, and it was nice to see new people again. I mean, it seemed, you know, you almost would think that pretty much now we'd be with the same people that have known about the challenge for a long time. But we always wind up with several new people in the mix, and it was really fun to see them working, you know. And for people that don't know, of course, we do 2 chats via Zoom when the week starts, and then we do 2 chats when the week ends. And so, whether you've done any work or not, you can come sit and listen and see what everybody else is talking about and how they thought the week was. Hillary says, yeah, the England Project rarely sleeps. I have a project channel that's like that. There's always somebody in there. But it's really fun to jump in the Zoom meetings too and get to see some new faces and see new people participating and being excited about it. I'm always excited about it. So
I am too.
yeah.
I am. And I like it when the new people come in and they're not quite sure what to do. And someone that's been doing it for a while kind of takes that person under their wing and works with them on the challenge.
I love seeing the new people in our chats.
Yes.
Because it seems like they get a lot of information out of our chats. That's where they can ask their questions.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of those this week that actually joined us and had never been in a challenge.
Yeah, and
before.
I really like the Discord platform anyways, better than how we were doing it before. And now there's the possibility to go in and we have just one. I love that we have one general chat, so everybody has their own channels. Like if you're in the Germany project, you're in that channel. If you're, in the South American, the Latin American countries, you're in that channel. But you can also talk in general chat, and before you didn't just go, oh, I'm just going to email all of WikiTree about this, But now you can just go into general chat and say, hey, I have a question. I'm wondering, should I do this with this profile? And, there's somebody from somewhere that is willing to comment on that and talk to you about it. So I think that really has increased the collaboration and the communication on WikiTree. Yeah, and Hillary noted too, nice to see new participants finding interesting finds. Yes. And I try and remember to point that out at the beginning every week because we never know who, is going to be participating and how experienced they are at it necessarily. But I do try and point that out. And, our space page is our everything when we do this. I'm going to share one more time, because we use these for each week. We have, each challenge week, we have a new space. And so this was the one for Angela's, and we have pictures. If people find pictures or documents, that they want to be able to link off to different people and profiles and whatnot, they can put them on here and then link there. And, we put things like the needs work. If you've got a profile that like you want a military section on it and you aren't comfortable doing that, you can put it on there. If you put 10 sources, but no narrative on it, and it needs a biography, you can put that on there and somebody will go check those, and hopefully clear those out. Photographs, we aren't really using the links there. It's just a reminder on who your captain is in case you have any questions about copyrights. Now, family search image lookups, we do have a few people, including Kathy, that will go to the family history libraries and do those image lookups for family search. And then this is one of our biggest ones, interesting finds. So, this is where we ask everybody, I'm going to zoom in, to, put those things that they find interesting. And sometimes it's little things, just an occupation, he might be a shoemaker, or sometimes it's big, it just whatever you think might interest other people. And so, we have that every time. And then here we keep track of the free space pages. And I love space pages. And you can do anything from, probate on there. If you want to put more than a couple of census charts, you can use a space page. If you want to put transcriptions from a will or a bunch of newspaper articles, you can put it on there so it doesn't, crowd up the profile and make it too long. And then, any military profiles we find, we try and list there. Our media outreach, our brick walls, which are not picked until midweek, and then me and the captain. So this was me and Kathy go and pick, one for each of the great grandparents lines that we hope can get done. Unfortunately, this week they were really difficult and we did not get those walls knocked down. And then resources. So general WikiTree resources. And then, there's always resources for the individual countries. And, if you have sources that you think might help others, please, do feel free to add it to those lists. And, we can all help each other out.
Mindy, what was that 29th find, the interesting find?
It was Catherine Eliza Cunningham Bain married. That's the one about the Master Mariner, which, yeah, that was really interesting. And I wish that would have gone in the survey too. He was lost at sea in 1899. And, his father was the son of a ship's carpenter and also a master mariner. And he was lost at sea 4 years before that. So the third generation, it did not stop him. He became a master mariner. And, he was still just a baby when his father died. And so, it's not like he grew up around his father talking about being out at sea or loving to do this. But, there was some conversation about how, some people might have hesitated at that. Oh, look, like grandpa was lost at sea. He was a master mariner. Dad was a master mariner. He was lost at sea. Oh, you know what? I think I'm not going to be a master mariner. Let's go do this instead. Let's go build bridges. That'll be good. You wonder if those thoughts went through his head, knowing that the previous generations before him had done that and not come back. And, but he became a master mariner anyways. Yeah, Dunya says, I really start smiling when Mindy says good morning and I'm at work for 7 hours. But, everybody knows what location I'm in. Well, the people working with me know what location I'm in. So I'm sure it feels odd to some. But I feel odd if I come in and go, oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, in one sentence to cover everything. And, and we do forget sometimes the little niceties on Discord, and I have to make myself, out of habit. I go in every morning and I put good morning and I put my little coffee cup. I'm still waking up drinking coffee, people, but good morning, from my perspective. So if you've been up for 8 hours working, then just keep in mind, I just got up. My brain's still slow, but sometimes people notice when you come in and you don't say good morning and then you just start talking about other stuff and they find it kind of rude. So, we just have to remember that since we don't have tone of voice or, people can't see me sitting here sleepily with my WikiTree cup going, oh man, I'm still trying to wake up. I remind them that, yeah, I'm just still waking up and need a little more coffee.
If I don't see your coffee cup, I'm kind of worried. Do you hear that, Mindy?
What's that?
I said, if I don't see that coffee cup after your good morning, I'm a little worried.
Yeah. Yeah, she actually said that the other day. She was like, what's wrong? There's no coffee cup. I said good morning and I forgot to put the little coffee cup icon.
I'm like, something's up.
It makes me almost dislike email sometimes because I email somebody and I have to stop and I look at it and I go, wait, is that too short of a comment? Because when you're in a hurry and you just want them to know you read their email and you're like, oh, that's a really good point. And then you send it off and you're like, oh, crud. Was that like really, did it seem abrupt? You can't put the emojis or the laughing or, I like Discord that you can put the little emoticons on there and, show kind of the mood that you're in and that you're smiling about it. You're not trying to be rude or anything. My mama told me to have good manners. She always taught me to have good manners.
And you have them.
Yes.
I try and remember to use them, but I'm not a morning person. And even when I was getting up at 3:30 or 4 in the morning, let me tell you, it's not because I was a morning person. It was because that's what my schedule was. Kathy, are you guys are both evening, right? Not morning people.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can stay up till 1, 2 a.m. no problem, but trying to get up early is a little hard for me. The one thing I want to say about challenges is that I know that not everyone is in Discord, and if you're not in Discord, You can comment on the G to G post and still kind of communicate with people. I personally feel that so much is going on in Discord during these challenges that if you're not in Discord, you're losing out on a lot of information that's being talked about. And as a captain, at least when I'm captain, I have to remember I have to go to the G to G and check the G to G and see if there's stuff there, because when I'm not captain, I'm not in the mindset of checking
to look at it.
to look at it because Discord is going.
Yeah, I always make a point to check it at the end of every day, sometimes several times a day, but at the very least, I check it at the end of every day. And that way I can make sure if there's questions they're commented on. But I do agree. The Discord is definitely not mandatory, but you don't get as much out of the experience if you aren't doing Discord, and even going to the chats that is, even a further step up. That's okay, Lynette. We know that you're not like intentionally being negative or evil. So those of us that have talked to
are
you
you
know
guys
that.
reading the comments?
Yes.
Lynette's
That's
what I
great.
just commented on Lynette's thing about being snarky.
Tabitha, not wearing my glasses, so hopefully hitting right letters.
Yeah.
She was close. And then she did the I'm a night owl, but yeah, you have to be able to transcribe that. I read a lot of subtitles on TV, and so I'm used to kind of fixing in my mind what the typos are. I am going to go ahead and go for the top 10 for this week. And once again, it's not all about the points. For most of us, really, honestly, it's the satisfaction of the research. But I know, even some of our best, most prolific participants, WikiTreeers that have participated in the past, like those points, because it really shows you where you're at. And, if you're somebody that's adding profiles or doing something that is giving you points, it's a good gauge on how far you're getting. Is everybody ahead of you? If so, why? Do you need to look at those profiles and see if they need help, or is it just that you didn't have a lot of time to work that week? It kind of gives you a way to see where you're at with everybody. And, I know this time we did have a lot of people that were really super, super focused on straightening out these multi-names, difficult lines. And so they were like, okay, I found 10 kids for this person, these people, but I need to finish working on the parents. I'm still researching them. And, in other words, please feel free to go in and add all the kids. I just don't have time for it right now. And that's fine to do that. That's, it's fine to do that. Oh, Tabitha is laughing. She goes, okay, Cheryl's pointing it out. I put my glasses on.
Sorry, Tabitha.
For our top 10 people this week, we had Caitlin Emmett. That was her first time as MVP. So way to go, Caitlin. And then we had Malcolm Rowlands, Maddie Hardman, Celia Marsh, Guillaume Albacini, who also, by the way, had a lot of bounty points because he was good at finding those interesting finds, as was Donna Bowman, who was on this list. Several of my captains were here. Tracy Bent, Aaron Breen, and the last one was Liz McDonald. And I think Dunya was up there at one point in the top 10 until those bounty points hit for the interesting finds. So way to go anyways. I did notice that you did a lot of incredible work this week. And, it's interesting to see how much the points start swapping around when it gets to the end of the week like that.
Was Liz new this week?
Yes.
That's pretty incredible then.
Yeah, we had a couple of people that were new. So it was really fun. One of them came over from Connie Knox's channel. So, and we love Connie. I love Connie. So that was great to see, that they saw that video and came on over to check us out and check the challenge out. We do have a lot of fun with them, I think.
And I think we need to point it out again that when you're working on the challenge, the points, a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on the points. But there are people that, like Steve, who do will transcriptions for us. He spends an incredible amount of time doing that. And there's no points for him. But without him, I don't know where we would be. A lot of people like to write biographies, and they're not getting points other than 1 point for a contribution when they're doing the biography. And they spend a lot of time. So they're not high in points, but they're very important to the challenge. So you are important no matter what you contribute every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely agree.
And like has been said before, we have people that do like obituary lookups for us. They're not getting the points for those. When I go to the Family History Center or Donna or whoever else goes and we're getting the image lookups, we're not getting points for those, but we know that those help improve the biography.
There are a lot of people that can't afford the subscriptions.
Yeah.
To the different places that other people can, like Ancestry and the newspaper.com. And that's where Discord really comes in handy, because people that are in Discord have those subscriptions. And if you need something off of there, they can go get it for you.
Well, and sometimes it's just those littlest things that can really bring somebody to life, because that's what we want to do. We don't just want to document, they died on this date, they lived on this date, they married on this date. They were on 2 censuses. Here's the census tables. And then that's all you get. That doesn't bring that person to life. I want to know a little bit more about them. And, I was even helping somebody this week, and I'm only bringing this up because it's kind of relevant, and because of their location, there aren't a lot of records, as far as really all you're going to find are their marriage record and their baptisms. And so they're not going to have those newspaper articles where we can sometimes find something interesting, or even necessarily a lot of history like we have especially in the United States, but in other countries too, just because we're such a new country. To where we can make things apply to their life and bring those people to life and see what they're going through. But I found this little article on their town, and it was talking about, how it was established like well back before 1650, and how at the time they used to take pirates and hang them at their port. And it was a warning to all the pirates and the privateers in the area: don't attack our village, don't come into our village, we won't tolerate it. And while that's like a terrible thing to read, somebody's being hung up in a public place like that, at the port where everybody goes in and out. You know what I mean? It just kind of gives you a little bit of perspective on those people, and how they were really protective of their own in that village. They were just really protective and very proud of their area. So sometimes even finding something like that, if you can't find newspaper articles, or if you do know they went off to war, try and look and see, were they in one of those locations that was an important part, one of the important battles in that war or not. Those things are all kind of relative.
Yeah. And going into this challenge, there were some England project members who had taken a look at the lines and found there had already been some errors. And so in Discord, they said, please leave the English lines alone. There are errors on them. We need to get them corrected. And so that's what they were trying to do, so that then they could go and let others work on it. And hopefully no one was offended, by that. But that does happen, that we have to bring the chainsaw out, at the beginning of the challenge.
Well, and but that's one line. As long as you're not saying like, don't work on anything in
Yeah.
Spain. You can say, I'm working on
Right.
this particular cousin or couple. I mean, a man and wife, period. And so sometimes that just goes back to what we were saying with communication. We have to be careful how we phrase things because you don't know how the next person's going to take it. And I just wanted to point out here, Hillary's talking about how hard it is sometimes to encourage people that write the good biographies. And I know this is dear to Kathy's heart as well, but we really super appreciate the people that can come in. And even if they don't know anything about how to find the records, you're in the United States and you have no idea where to find England records. You go in and you look at the records that they have and you build those stories. And that's just as important of a part as finding the sources are. So if you like writing those stories and writing narratives and looking at the records somebody else has found, and you don't see any profiles listed on this space page, feel free to go into Discord and say, hey, does somebody need a narrative? And you'll probably have like 6 people that put their hand up here, because they're busy trying to make sure they get all the sources on the profile. But it is one of the things that makes us different from every other site is we're not just going, okay, A to B, here's the list of their sources and here's their dates, period. We want to go in there and hopefully somebody will have the time to go flesh these profiles out, and if you don't have time, I do highly, highly encourage, the extensions that we have. They don't cost anything for WikiTree. We have several of them wrapped now into the WikiTree extension. So there's that, and you can find that pinned in our forum. And then, the Sorcerer, I believe, was the only big extension that did not get wrapped into that new extension just because it was so heavy on its own. It was not a good thing to combine with everything else. And, if you have those 2 things, it will really help you with your citations. And it will give you a little auto bio button, which will at least give you a stub bio. So if you have sources on the profile and you hit auto bio, it'll say John Smith lived in such and such in Kentucky in 1850, and if there's an occupation, it'll say his occupation, and it'll give you something to put in that biography instead of just they were born and they died. So, but once again, anybody that does either really like writing narrative or you just want to develop your skills and get better at it, definitely offer your services up because we really want to get these profiles fleshed out.
Yeah.
And
If
not
I
everybody
come
likes
across
writing
a
narrative.
profile that just has, he was born and then he died, just kind of as that one sentence, and that's all there is, and there's a source on there, I'll go in and hit the edit and just hit the auto bio button. So it gives it a little bit more in there.
Oh, goodness, Tabitha, that's not good. So was that on a census record? I wonder if he had just recently died or something. Yeah. He probably just recently died and his spouse said that. Oh, whose household is this? It's so-and-so. Oh, but he's dead. He died now. That's interesting, though, that they would list it like that instead of just taking his name off of it. Well, do we have any other last-minute tips, questions, concerns? Yeah, so within 2 weeks, Tabitha, she died. She died within 2 weeks. Yeah, John, it really is. I am so hooked on the extensions, because we want to work smarter, not harder, as they say. But also, that gives you the leeway to do the fun stuff. If you really think it's fun to go out there and find all these sources or figure out the mystery of who the parents are, you get to focus on that part of it. You're not sitting there going, oh, I got to add another biography. Just hit that auto bio button and it at least gives them a good beginning biography that somebody else can come in and flesh out a little bit more. Oh, that's not good. One where they confused the first and the second wife's names. Yeah. Somebody was in trouble.
Sometimes I think the men married their next wife that had the same name as the
same name.
previous, so they wouldn't get it confused when they called out the wife's name.
I know. I always wondered that. We had a couple of them this year that were like that. And, you know, I always wondered if it was so they didn't get upset or, you know, go to call out, hey, you know, so-and-so, hey, Cheryl, bring me in a glass of water. And they're like, oh, crud. I mean, Gina, bring me in a glass of water. You know, you'd be in some trouble.
I married 2 Mikes.
Yeah. She cheated.
Yeah, it's easier that way.
Oh, a Sarah and a Susan. At least those are kind of close, though. You can kind of understand it.
Sarah and Susan. Oh.
Hillary says, I love the newspapers. I do too, you know, and that's another thing you either want to watch the Discord chat for, or please share those in our resources when we start the space page up, you know, because there are a lot of locations where you can either go to Internet Archive or like the New York newspapers. There's some of them you can find on a site that just has that. You know, there's places that are not subscription sites that you can get newspapers for. And, you know, I know I get in the mindset like a lot of other people, and I'm like, oh, newspapers.com, you know, and some people use Genealogy Bank for the obituaries. But there are a lot of newspapers that are available online. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know and you don't see anything on the resource page, do a Google search, you know, and just say whatever, San Jose, California newspapers, and see if they have one of their papers online with the archives. So you can look for those articles, because we found some really, really good ones doing that. Yeah, Library of Congress also. Thank you, Lynette. Has newspapers. There's just a lot of great places to get them from.
Tabitha, you're hysterical today.
She is. She's on fire. Hillary says she also found out about categories I was not aware of as someone mentioned them in Discord. And, you know, I found that with some of my projects too, not just this one, is that you get to sharing stuff and you think, oh, everybody knows this. And you're like, oh, yeah, I put this category or this sticker on that. And 4 people stop what they're doing and they're like, what? We have that? I mean, there's so many fun little things, especially if you like profile bling. And the categories are so important for future researchers too, you know, to know who all lived in an area and who all did this in a certain, you know, area. The categories can do so many things. And so, you know, you definitely, we learn a lot from each other. I learn something new all the time in the challenge from the people that come in and participate.
And the backgrounds really add to a profile if you get the right one.
Yeah, they can. You don't want them to be too loud, too garish, you know, kind of muted colors. And then you just have to keep in mind that, you know, this is WikiTree. We don't own the profile. So if you go put a beautiful background and somebody takes it down, that's fine. You know, if they're managing it and they don't like it, they can take it down. And that's a personal, you know, that's just personal choice. We all have our own taste in things. But, you know, it doesn't hurt to stop and put them on there, because I found that the majority of people don't take them down. The majority of people, you know, appreciate having them on there and having them look nice. So.
Oh, I love that name, Dishes and Stitches. That's cute.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what we wind up coming up with for next year for the challenge and for the symposium. So, you know, we'll be doing both in 2023, and I'm really excited about it, you know, and the challenge itself will change a little bit as far as, you know, what our focus is on. Just like from last year to this year, it changed. I think we do things quite a bit different than we did last year, and it's been a lot of fun. So, you know, just have to watch for that. And I can't believe we only have 3 more challenge weeks of the year. 3, that's it. So 3 more focuses coming up, and then we're done. So I'm going to be looking for all of you to be participating, hopefully.
Does everybody know who we're working on? Or is that a secret?
We are doing, it's on the calendar for the challenge, but if you don't know where that is, we're working on Robbie Coltrane next. And then it will be Mark Cuban, which of course we had wanted to do at the start of the year. But, and we were hoping he could actually give some input, but he got a little bit too busy and he wasn't able to manage that. And then for December, for the holidays, it'll be Mariah Carey, just because she is so known by so many for, you know, her holiday music. And so those will be our 3 people that will be left, and then we'll be done for 2022. So
And everybody gets psyched up for Mariah Carey. Oh, Mariah.
Francis is saying I'd like to get started in the challenge, but they want somebody to guide them through. And, you know, there's a ton of, these people are so friendly and helpful. I'm sure more than one person will tell you, you know, just reach out and they'll kind of walk you through it and answer questions for you. And, you know, if you want them to be a buddy for the next challenge week, you know, I'm sure there are plenty that would do that also. If nobody reaches out, just let me know later and I'll hook you up with somebody. But they really are a lot of fun, and it helps you. I think it helps you improve your own skills as a researcher, and it helps you improve your own talents on WikiTree, because I know my profiles are certainly better than they were back before the challenge started. You know, once again, we just all learn so much from each other. Well, I think at this, I am going to wrap this up. Make sure you like the video, like the video, like. And, you know, next weekend will be the off week, meaning we are not having a live cast, but there will be a Zoom meeting. So if you don't get the notification about that, you can always check in Discord, or you can let me know and I will make sure that you get that.